Cincy fans, buckle up. Bengals offense is looking electric. The defense, well, that's another story. FCC is making some moves. The Reds might be out of gas. Don't know. And tonight, we're naming the top 10 Cincinnati Sports Villains that will make your blood boil. So, and if you think you might know who number one is, I don't know. You might need to stick around so that you find out. And we're going to be bringing some serious debate. Unfortunately, it's just myself tonight. So I'm going to give you my list. And what we are planning on doing is having a bracket style challenge. You fans of the podcast will be able to vote for your most hated villain of all time. So let's get started. Welcome back to the Cincy Sports Scene Podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and I am bringing you all things Bengals, Reds, Bearcats, FC Cincinnati. Sam is out tonight. He was sick over the weekend, lost his voice, and tonight he has to pull his job duty. So we are coming to you riding solo tonight. So bear with me a little bit as I go through all the week that was with our quick hitters. So let's go ahead and get started with that today. Let's take a look a little bit on, we're going to talk about the Bengals preseason game. The offense looked really sharp. Burrow, his accuracy, one incompletion, 100 and some odd yards. He wasn't happy with his performance. That's what you want out of your quarterback. That's what you want out of your leader. And he wants to be perfect at all the times. Part of that is just his demeanor. And I think that's why he is a very, very special quarterback. The defense, it's just one of those things that we are going to have to put up a lot of points and hope and pray that our secondary, linebacker core, pass rush can cause some havoc with these other teams that we play, especially if we want to get off to a good start. And that's important. And I think that's why Burrow was so upset with his performance, because he knows he has to be perfect. If he is not perfect, then the defense is going to give up 40 points. Let's hope not. But we haven't gotten better from last year. And Geno Stone is out. Who knows how long he will be out. Shamar is coming along. He was pretty impressive, his few attempts he did get. So we'll see. I'm hoping this week against the Commanders, he'll see a lot more reps with the first team. Our offensive line needs to, especially the interior, needs to pick it up a little bit. I don't know how much the ones will play. This is, typically in the preseason, traditionally, when I was watching football in my 20s, 30s, and even 40s. So week 3 was always the dress rehearsal week for your starters, played, into the third quarter. Now it's week 2. I don't know how much the Bengals will risk having Joe Burrow out there. I can tell you this, he wants to be out there, and he wants to probably be out there for a half. Let's just hope that nothing goes wrong on the offensive line and he's running for his life and taking unnecessary hits. So yeah, that was, to me, a positive. The offense looks sharp, isn't missing a beat. The defense still needs to play catch up here this week in camp and this week for the game. I'm watching the secondary. There seems to have the They seem that they are having a pretty good week in camp here. It's Tuesday. A lot of reports from Dan Horde on Twitter. If you don't follow Dan, please do so. He gives you so much good content. His 5 observations, daily observations from camp, phenomenal. And so you need to check him out if you don't. And he was saying that the secondary is looking better. Jordan Battle picked off Burrow today and ran one back for a touchdown. But then on the very next series, Burrow's hit Yosef Oss for a 45-yard bomb for a touchdown. Came back, to revenge his interception. So hopefully the Bengals, will keep moving forward on the defensive end, making progress like that. And, we can get a couple of stops, and, our offense seems like they have to score every single time. I hope that's not the case, but we will find out here soon enough, because it's coming up in 4 weeks. Speaking of, is the season over? Are the Reds just sitting around 500 for the rest of the season? I don't know. You probably hear me ranting a little bit on the Reds just because I had such high hopes with Terry Francona and their new approach to everything. But I don't know. I mean, when you go into Pittsburgh and you lose 2, granted, Paul Skeens is pitching, gave up 7 hits, the most. So, you can chalk that up as a win. As far as, getting 7 hits off of him, is the most he's given up in his careers to this date. But not capitalizing, not scoring is horrible. And the Pirates are horrible. I just don't understand this team. We come off a victory on Sunday, and then to take the series, and then we come into Pittsburgh and lay an egg. And then we had a scramble for 2 games, and we split the series with them, which we should have won 3-1, and the series 3-1, but we didn't. So we had to move forward. We had to keep going, and we come to Philly, and Philly comes into town, and this is where I'm a little disappointed with Terry Francona and letting Andrew Abbott go into the 8th, which is perfectly fine. I mean, he was pitching pretty well up until then. But, it's a 1-run game. And here's where I question the direction of the Reds. Here's where I question, what is Francona trying to do? When the Reds say they value defense and they go out and trade for Hayes to play third base, which he made really nice play. But then you put Gavin Lux in left field, who's by all means is a second baseman, and a very poor second baseman at that, in the outfield in a 1-run game. And then you have your starting third baseman playing right field now, learning on the fly in Novelli Marte, where you have Rake Fraley and Austin Hayes on the bench waiting for an opportunity to go in for a defensive replacement. I don't know, maybe. But, he was sure quick enough to pull Marte off third base in the 4th inning or 5th inning and put his boy Espinal there on third base, and knowing it's a close game and we need the big bat in the bottom of the 8th or the top of the 8th, and Marte is out and Espinal's hitting, and Weekly flies out to right field. So I don't know if they have a direction yet, and it's August. They need to have this direction, and they need to have this thing figured out back before the All-Star break and the trade deadline. And it's crazy. And that's why I guess I'm real frustrated tonight coming to you, and from just a standpoint as a lifelong fan, what is the direction? If it's defense and Chris Valakia gap to gap hitting, singles, moving people over, hitting a double here, scoring, utilizing speed, we're not doing that. We're not even stealing bases. So if we're not hitting home runs and we're not stealing bases, then what the heck are we trying to do offensively? Are we a speed team putting pressure on the defense with our speed and stealing bases, and then playing for the a single or a shot in the gap and score from first? Or are we waiting for the 3-run bomb, which obviously we're not hitting because we don't have the pop to do that? Or are they just hoping that, Marte, Steer, Ellie can find the magic and hit, 15 more home runs the rest of the way each? That's not happening. I mean, Ellie has 2 home runs in 2 months, or a month and a half. He's not hitting the ball up in the air, and that's the direction of the hitting coach and what Francona wanted to do. He wanted them to hit more line drives. I thought we were going to be utilizing the speed, but apparently not, because we're not stealing bases like we did last year. Ellie's not running recklessly, which is a good thing in a way, because you don't want him running recklessly, getting injured, taking all that wear and tear. But there have been situations where he should be running, or TJ Friedel should be running, or Marte should be running in a situation, and they're not. And then the batter grounds out into a double play on the next pitch. It's just very, very frustrating to me that the Reds can't seem to find a direction. And, they score 14 runs on Sunday and 0 runs on Monday. And that's this club. You go back through the season and you look at when they scored 7 or more runs, what did they score the next game? Usually it's 0 or 1, maybe 2 runs. You don't see them putting a run together where they score 14 and then they come out the next day, score 6 and then 7 and then 8 and then 5. No, it's 14, 0, 0, 0. I mean, crying out loud. Once we did that against Cleveland early in the year, and then we had 3 straight games where we did not score a run or had 1 run or less. And that's the frustrating part about this team. And I was looking so forward to us, making that run, being a playoff, more than just a playoff team, right? We want to win a playoff series, because once you get in, you never know what's going to happen. We're sitting 2.5 back, I believe, maybe 3.5 back. Let me pull it up as we speak to you tonight. So we're 13 back from Milwaukee. We're not catching Milwaukee. Nobody's catching Milwaukee. They just keep winning. So we're 2 games back of the wild card, which, with me ranting, you would think we're 15 back. And I guess that's what's the most frustrating part is being 2 back, where we have multiple games that we could have won with better decisions. And this sounds a lot like the podcast we've had the last 2 years bashing David Bell. David Bell was mostly about his platoons, matchups, pulling pitchers, those type of things. This is about, what are we doing here? We're not playing defensive specialists when we should be playing a defensive specialist. Instead, we're playing defensive specialists in the 5th inning instead of the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning. I don't know. It just baffles me. And we've got Philly that we were right there. We should have won tonight's game. We have who we have on the mound tonight. It looks like on Tuesday we have Brady Singer on the mound against Suarez, left-handed pitcher, and he shut us down over July 4th. It was just nasty. And then on Wednesday, the return of Hunter Green. Let's go, Hunter. And Sanchez, another left-handed pitcher. It doesn't look good for the Reds. Game 1 should have been ours. This could be the series we get swept, right? Don't know. Hope not. Because if it is, Milwaukee comes to town for 3, it could be ugly. It could be night. And we'll be talking Bengals and Bearcat football here in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully, we can salvage one tonight, and we can move on. And if we don't, if we get swept, and we get swept by the Brewers, who just find ways to run off so many victories in a row. I mean, they've had a 10-game winning streak, 8-game winning streak, 7-game winning streak, 5-game winning streaks, I think twice, 4-game winning streaks, I don't know how many times, but it's unreal what they are doing. And they got rid of their closer, last year at the trade deadline. They just know how to evaluate talent, and they know how to play the game to their talent. And they have a direction, top-down organization, and here we go. So let's go. Next week, we'll talk more about the Reds series here and Hunter Green. And I do have a little rant about Hunter. I'm going to save it to see how he pitches before I voice my opinion on Hunter Green. All right. Last week, I had the trivia question, and it was pretty tough one. The Reds played in Bristol. Tennessee, and there were five other stadiums that have hosted a Major League Baseball game that do not have a Major League team in that state. And Sam got the obvious ones, right? Alabama, Iowa, Nebraska. But the other two with North Carolina and Hawaii. So there you have it for that. I do not have a trivia question for you all tonight, so we'll come back next week with a new trivia question for you. So we're going to move on. Like I said, this is going to be a quick one. And the topic of the week this week was supposed to be the top 10 sports villains in Cincinnati history. So these are the guys or gals that just make your blood boil when you hear their name. You can be thinking of, for me, like Yadier Molina, Van Holfen when he blew out Carson Palmer's knee. And then, those types of people, the Pittsburgh Steelers as a whole, Cubs fans when they come into town, just things that get your blood boiling here in Cincinnati. So our task for you, our listeners, is this. What we want to do is create the top 10 sports villains bracket. And a couple of our brackets here that I had. So the first one we had, like I said, Yadier Molina from the Cardinals, Hines Ward from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, Joey Porter. You're getting you're getting a sense here. The theme, Kimo von Oelhoffen. To me, the Castellini ownership. Some of you Mike Brown might get you going here. Vontez Burfict, right? Even a Cincinnati guy might get you going, just because of his stupidity. Jeremy Hill, Sam would probably be throwing Jeremy Hill's name out there. A couple of others, who made our Hall of Shame, right? Pete Rose. I don't think he gets your blood boiling as much here. Guy who I like listening to. I'm glad he's back on the airwaves. Tom Brenneman. I know for a lot of you out there listening, Tom Brenneman, his name, it is. A lot of people do not appreciate the comment he said. That lost him his job, rightfully so. But he's done his time. He's repented, moved forward. But he might be one of those. So what we are going to be doing is be looking at Instagram and Twitter and Facebook for our bracket polls. We will put 2 and 2 together for you. So we'll put like maybe Hines Ward versus Zimper from UC, Nancy Zimper, and take votes. And the most vote getter will move on. So we'll be posting those out the next few days, and on next Sunday when we come to you, we will bring you the results of who won the bracket, who came in second, those type of things. And we'll also post all that stuff on our social media websites as well as YouTube. So I know it was a short podcast, but I wanted to get one out to you. If you feel free to hit that like button, subscribe, make a comment. It helps us out. We want to know what you're thinking about our show. We want to know what you're thinking about our topics of the week. If you have a topic of the week that you would like for us to explore, please send us an email at csspodcast@yahoo.com or send us a Instagram or Twitter comment on YouTube in the comments section. And who knows, we may invite you on to be a guest and talk about your topic of the week. So until next time, next week, we will review our villains, and then we're going to be doing a back to school college football preview, and we are going to be doing the Power 4 conferences. So think ACC, Big 12, Big 10, and the SEC. And we'll just give you a little preview, our takes on the conference, our takes where football is going. And then the following week, we'll do a more in-depth UC breakdown for you there. So I appreciate you listening. I know this is a short one, but like I said, I am running solo today, so there's not a lot of back and forth. But I really do appreciate everything you have. And remember to join us next week, share it, hit that like button for us, comment. Until then, everybody take care.